Every VPA that has been signed has a number of components that make up the VPA. For those of us who may have heard about annexes under the VPA, it is not something that we should think about as beyond what we already know. In fact, when you think of a good book, annexes are a lot like the chapters that make up a good book. And so in the VPA, there are a total of 11 annexes that make up that VPA. But I think we need to have an appreciation of what those annexes are and what they contain. So when we look at the VPA, we will have a better understanding of what it's trying to achieve. One of the first annexes under the VPA, Annex 1, in Guyana's case, for example, talks about the products that will be covered by the VPA, or what we call the product scope. Now, the product scope is simply the list of products that VPA will make provisions for. What that means is that when you are exporting any of those 6 products to the European Union, you will have a green line, so to speak. So it's a lot easier to ship those products. That is not to say that you cannot export anything else to the European Union by way of timber, but rather what it means is that those products will have an easier chance of going to the European Union. Currently, the VPA, as I said, covers 6 products. Those 6 products, in Guyana's case, are what we are currently exporting to the European Union. You must understand also that it is not limited to those products, but other products can be added as the VPA progresses. So if we revisit the agreement in 5 years' time, for example, we can add maybe another product, like furniture, for example, to the VPA, and then that will then have an easier chance to get to the European Union. So as I said, Annex 1, if we think about a book as an example, can be referred to as maybe Chapter 1. And so a number of chapters make up the VPA, or a number of annexes. Annex 2, under the VPA in Guyana's case, talks about the legality definition. What makes timber legal? You may have heard during consultations a lot about the legality definition, but everything that makes up the legality definition will be found under Annex 2 in this partnership agreement. And so all the criteria and the indicators, what are the things you have to comply with to make timber legal, those are the things you're going to find on the Annex 2 of this agreement. Now, every VPA, and you must understand this, every VPA is made up of these same annexes. They may be numbered differently. The titles, however, are pretty much the same. But every VPA must contain some basic elements, and it is these elements that we're talking about. So the legality definition is on the Annex 2 of the VPA in Guyana's case. Now, Annex 3. Annex 3 is a very unique annex in that it is pretty much standard. You will see the text in the annex almost being the same thing for all the other VPAs that have been signed or may be signed in time to come. Because what Annex 3 really looks at is what are the procedures that have to be followed once your timber gets to the European Union. And what it is currently is, so in a sense, it is the EU that determines what that annex really contains. Now, we obviously can change it and modify it to suit the Guyana situation. However, understand, because that annex focuses on what happens when your timber gets to the European Union, a lot of what is contained in that annex will be determined by what happens in the EU. So if those procedures in the EU changes, let's say to the next year it changes, that annex may then have to be amended to meet those new changes or new requirements. But that is Annex 3, or as I said, if we're thinking of a book, that will be Chapter 3, what is contained and what are the rules that are followed once your product gets to the European Union. Now, Annex 4 of a VPA talks about the licenses and the license procedures. And what now, under the VPA, everything that is going to the European Union has to be licensed, has to have a document that says yes, it has been checked and verified before it is allowed to be shipped to the European Union. That license, what it looks like, what information it will contain, will be found under Annex 4. Now, for you out there, understand that you will see these annexes over time. You will see them on the internet. You will have them in hard copy. But even if you see them, it is for you to read, understand, and also make comments as you see fit. Now, every annex that is developed, Guyana has a chance to make an input, make some changes as we see fit, because the VPA is unique to every country. And so the fourth annex, as I mentioned, is really just what the license is going to be, what it will look like, and how does it actually operate. How long will it take to expire, for example? Will we, as a country, agree on 30 days, 60 days? Those are some of the things that will be found under the fourth annex of the VPA. Annex 5, what we refer to as the legality assurance system. Now, when you think of a system of legality, it is not just what timber, the permits that are in place, for example. There is a lot more that has to happen before timber can be determined as legal. Some of those things, for example, the licensing, persons exporting must be licensed, for example, before they can be able to send products to the European Union. That licensing system is also part of this legality assurance system. In fact, there are 5 components that the legality assurance system has. The legality definition, the world tracking system, the verification system, there is an internal audit system as well. That is all of those form part of the legality assurance system. So though it may sound like it's a pretty big system, it really is a number of things coming together to make that annex what we refer to as the legality assurance system. That, again, if you go back to your book, would be chapter 5. What is the legality assurance system? Now, every VPA agreement that is signed has to be audited, and there has to be some guidelines that have to be followed as it relates to the independent audit that has to be done of the system. And that person, or those persons that are going to be audited by the company, there are some guidelines that have to be followed, or what we refer to as the terms of reference. Now, the terms of reference are really what are we looking for in the person or organization who is going to be monitoring or auditing, rather, the system. And so Annex 6, when you have a chance to look at Annex 6, what you will see in that annex is simply terms of reference that says when the auditor comes, what he or she will be looking for and what areas they will pay attention to in doing an audit of the VPA. Now, the next annex, Annex 7, is what we call the implementation schedule. And as the name suggests, it is really the timelines that have to be followed and what happens over time after you've signed the VPA. Now, understand what it is saying also is that the VPA is not going to become operational from the moment we sign the document. In fact, it is now going to go into what we call the implementation stage. Guyana is unique in this case in that we already have a lot of things that are working as it relates to implementation. It is some countries, what happened is when they develop the VPA, they then, after developing the document, then started putting systems in place on the ground. In Guyana's case, it is unique in that we already have a lot of these systems working. However, Annex 7 will simply say what will happen over a given period of time. So let's say, for example, we want to take another year after that to get this VPA fully operational. It will say what will happen month by month as we get to the end. And at the end of that year, a number of activities will have to be completed, and then we'll be ready to issue the first effect license. Now, the 8th annex, supporting measures for the VPA implementation. Now, our country, like many other countries that have gotten involved in VPAs, don't always have all the resources available to get some of these systems, sometimes to the level that the European Union has or requires. There may be some additional things that need to be done that sometimes for example, we may need to build capacity in the country to make the VPA work the way it was designed. But that capacity building and what is required to build capacity may be one of the things we might ask for support from funding agencies, for example, to help us build capacity in different areas among different stakeholders. What you will see is a list of what the country requires to be able to make the VPA operational. So, for example, we need capacity building and training, let's say in community associations, for example. That is something you will see show up there. If we need, for example, more institutional capacity or other structural developments. For example, let's say we wanted to do GPSs, for example, to make this VPA work and have a VPA that is robust enough to say yes, our product is legal. Then, if what support measures we need, we will then put it in that annex. So it is also a good chance for you, the stakeholders, to, when you see a draft of this annex, to look at it and carefully examine and says, if you think we actually need to have something else in place to make this VPA work the way it was supposed to. Now, Annex 9, the criteria to assess the legality assurance system. As we heard earlier, what the legality assurance system is, and it will be audited. But again, the criteria that it will be audited against will be something that you will see in this annex. What specifically will be checked for? And this is what the auditors are going to use when they are assessing the legality assurance system. Now, the 10th annex is very important as well, in that it helps to build transparency of the VPA agreement. And it is the annex that deals with reporting on public information, or what information will be made public on the VPA once it becomes operational. So, for example, many countries, for example, would say that the number of flex licenses that have been issued is something that we want to make public under the VPA. They may also say, for example, we want to make production records available under the VPA. They may also say, for example, we want to, if there were any issues or anybody was refused a license, for example, they may want to make that information public. Again, what this annex is seeking to do is to tell the world over what information we want to make public out there, and also what we have to be careful also in this annex, in that whatever is put in this annex will everybody is going to see, because it will be at international level. It is not something we put out there just for Ghana. So in assessing this annex, what the NTWG is seeking to do is to also carefully look at the sensitivity of some information, because some persons may think that they want all the information that the GFC has, for example, to be put under there, but some of the information will be sensitive, and we need to talk to stakeholders specifically about releasing some information on this annex. But again, what this Annex 10 or the 10th chapter of this book is going to contain is that information that we would like to make public, as well as the channels through which it will be made public. Because we understand also that not everybody has access to every form of or every channel of information dissemination. So you may not be able to get the internet where you are, but you still need to see the information that is to be made public. And so it may take the form of a newspaper, it may take the form of the radio, or simply a document that is printed and sent to you. But again, to have access, it will say what are the channels to be used to make this information public. And finally, the Annex 11, which is referred to as the Joint Monitoring and Review Committee. Now, once the VPA has been set up and we are closer to coming to an agreement or an implementation, there is a committee that is formed that reviews the entire process. Now, for many countries that have signed the VPA, this committee tends to be a multi-stakeholder committee. So you will have persons from government, private sector. You will also have persons from the partner country. So there will also be some EU people that also sit on this Joint Monitoring and Review Committee. That's why it is referred to as a joint monitoring committee. So together, both parties, the EU and us, and internally we will have civil society members, private sector, government. That group is going to sit down and look at how the VPA is functioning and assessing it. So over time, this group is also going to produce reports on a timely basis. Maybe every year, a report is going to come from this committee that says how the VPA has been working and whether or not there have been issues and concerns that were raised. The other thing that this committee is also going to have the responsibility of doing is to receive, if there are complaints about the VPA and its workings, this committee is also going to have to play the role of assessing the validity of those complaints, whether the action taken, or in some cases deciding what action needs to be taken to remedy whatever situation may be existing under the VPA. So in summary, just to you to understand again, annexes is not something that is beyond your understanding, but rather this is the chapters of the VPA. And every VPA has these very same annexes. They may be called by different names, but the content is essentially the same. And so when you look at the VPA that Guyana is currently drafting, and you will see different drafts of different annexes coming to you, maybe on the internet, maybe printed and sent in the print media. But understand, all these annexes are they each deal with specific things that you as stakeholders are free to make your comments on, so that at the end of it we have a VPA that benefits all stakeholders.